Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? This is Kyle and Mike from the Fantasy Phenom. We are back again, breaking down today's 8-game slate, one of the slates in a long time. There are a ton of marquee playoff games. We got teams that aren't playing for anything that just give up a lot of points. And just overall, a lot of good plays today. I think the cash line will be high. So expect that. But a lot of good
Yeah,
plays, man. A lot of different ways to make some lineups.
yeah. I teased it yesterday. I was like, "Save your money for today." Um, I looked ahead. I saw it, and I didn't realize DraftKings was going to cut those two juicy games out, meaning the late two games. But I think it kind of works out nice. There's only a 6-game main slate on DraftKings, but kind of limits your player pool a bit and makes it a little bit easier to build some rosters.
Yeah, so we'll do a little roster building for you guys at the end of the show. Granted, we have time as well, but do a little sneak peek for you.
Hey Kyle,
What's up?
I can't see it or the spreadsheet. Is there a reason why?
Um, there shouldn't be.
All right, I'm gonna try calling you right back.
All right. Now
There we
can
go.
you see me?
I sure can.
All right. Theo's back. Kyle's here.
Uh-oh.
JC is here.
Jeez Louise.
Rashad is here. Everyone's
The
piling in.
wrecking crew.
All right, dude. So Denver, Portland. This is probably not only one of the juiciest games in terms of points and lack of defense, but these two teams are the two teams fighting for that eighth playoff spot in the West. So you know this is going to be a guns blazing game.
Yeah, if you're a fan of the NBA, this is must-watch TV down the stretch here, I think. There's a couple games on this slate that you could say that about, too.
Golden State, Houston. For what it's worth,
Zach,
also, we already have news. Sorry, Mike. Golden State will be playing their starters, according to Steve Kerr, both this Houston game and the Spurs game tomorrow night.
hey, at least they let us know in advance. That's nice.
So, and then Miami Detroit is pretty much that game is useless. I wouldn't stack anything. I mean, you can make an argument, but
Well, I mean, I was thinking that game as far as playoff seeding is somewhat interesting.
yeah, Miami,
They're
that's true.
both
Well, Detroit's
they're
out.
both fighting.
Detroit's out. They're not going to go anywhere.
They're not mathematically eliminated,
No, but
yet they still rested Reggie Jackson in the playoff hunt, which makes zero sense at all.
he might be done for the season. Did you hear that? They're talking about shutting him down for the year.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't make sense for a team to be fighting for a spot to just go ahead and rest their starting point guard. So
Yeah.
anyway,
You got mini Indiana. Indiana's obviously playoffs. Minnesota's out. Milwaukee and Charlotte. Milwaukee's in the playoffs. They are hot right now too. They've been playing really well. Philadelphia, Brooklyn, two teams fighting for nothing. Uh,
dignity.
Mike's hoping that Brooklyn gets a winning streak to end the year. Phoenix, Atlanta.
They
Atlanta's on
already
a.
have a winning streak.
Here we
It's
go.
going.
Here we go. Um, Phoenix done. Atlanta is on a tailspin right now. All their guys are hurt, but they are still playing for something. And then Washington, LA. LA's out of it. Brandon Ingram's probably not going to play. Washington obviously is fighting for seeding. They have a chance to get that second, maybe first seed. But as of right now, the Boston Celtics and the GOAT, Jaylen Brown, hold the number one seed in the East.
Oh God. Anyway, basketball season's almost done, guys. You don't have to hear that for much longer. I promise. What were we talking about? So yeah, Atlanta, man, they've been giving it up to people, and Tailspin is right. The end of the season cannot come soon enough for the Hawks.
Yeah, well, they've already said Millsap's out the next three games. They've got Bazemore out, Cephalosha's out. That automatically puts Prince in play. He played 38 minutes last time. I don't know if he plays
Mm-hmm.
another full 38, but I expect at least 30.
Yeah, no, I think so. His price is pretty fair for 30 minutes too.
Yeah. Um, All right, well let's jump into this slate. So
Let's do it.
obviously this Denver Portland game is eliminated on DraftKings. It is a part of FanDuel, so we'll break it down in that sense. Just kind of keep in mind that it isn't on the main slate in FanDuel. Dame Lillard, I don't know on FanDuel if there is a better play at point guard for. Well, you can make arguments, but I just feel like Dame against Denver at home. Dame's been doing everything down the stretch for Portland. He's even playing in blowouts. He played 5 minutes into that blowout in the fourth quarter last game. So he's staying on the court. 10-3 on DraftKings is steep, though. But it also makes sense with it only being a 2-game slate.
Yeah, they're trying to find someone to compete with John Wall in that, as far as ownership in that late slate. There's only a 2-game slate there, so that's why his price is where it's at. 94, though, I think that's still pretty steep. I mean, you got to play the narrative, like we've been saying the past week. Got to play these narratives, playing Denver. But I think playing Dame at 94, actually it's FanDuel. You could probably get him in with Harden. I was going to say,
You can.
on DraftKings, yeah, you probably can. But on DraftKings, at those two prices, you wouldn't be able to get him and Harden. But
the good thing is obviously because he's only that price on DraftKings because he's not in the main slate. So there.
yeah, exactly.
So definitely remember that. Elsewhere from this game, do you look at Jameer Nelson?
You can. I tend to not go him in tournaments. I know he's shown upside, and this is going to be an up and down game. I think. I don't know. I'm indifferent. I haven't really put much research into this game, to be honest with you, since I've been studying up on DraftKings.
The main slate.
Yep.
All right. Well, this Golden State Houston game, obviously another great game to target. I think you'll see a lot of people stacking this game. As I was going through it and finding pieces to put into my lineup, I really didn't like a lot of Golden State. Is that crazy?
Yeah, no, I don't think you're crazy at all. I think so Golden State and Houston, far and away the highest fantasy point total on the slate today.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at, playing against each other, there really isn't a positive plus minus here for each team,
So, I mean, I looked at Steph. Yeah, he could have a good game. He could have a 50-point game. I mean, 99. I don't know if I'd rather pay for Dame at that price, right? So that's where I went. I looked at Clay. Clay's in a good matchup, yes. I'm also a big believer in those home road narratives for Clay, or splits, I should say. And I really don't like Clay on the road. And then I looked at Draymond, who by far has the best matchup, I think, on the Warriors, and Draymond just hasn't been hitting value. And for him to be damn near 8K, I need 40 points. I don't know if I can trust Draymond to get 40 points today.
It's interesting, though. I mean, the point totals say you want a piece of this game, right? Mm-hmm. You got to have a piece in this game to compete. You have to. But then you look at the prices in order to get a piece in this game, and it makes you kind of take a step back. So, again, this is the game that's going to have the most fantasy points to go around. I think you pick and choose your spots. I think if you look at last 10 DVP, which I tend to value over the rest, it says Steph and Clay both have a positive matchup as far as DVP against Houston, which makes sense. It doesn't really highlight any of the Houston guys. Golden State has been giving it up to power forwards a bit last 10, but I mean, who on Houston at power forward are you going to look at? No one really stands out. So I think you just kind of go with your gut on this one. I think, you get Harden or you don't get Harden. And if you don't get Harden, you perhaps pick somebody off Golden State,
So do you think Harden projects as my highest scorer tonight? I'm at around almost 60 FanDuel points. I don't know, man. I just feel like he doesn't, from my eye test, I just feel like he doesn't destroy Golden State. I feel like Golden State...
Go ahead. This isn't a positive matchup for Harden.
Yeah.
Going up against Steph and Clay. No, but I mean, that's what it's come down to in the NBA, especially on a 6-game slate on DraftKings. Do you play Russell Westbrook or you don't? Do you play Harden or you don't?
Mm-hmm.
Whenever Harden and Westbrook is on the slate, I find myself building at least 3 lineups so that I can have
Some
one or two
exposure.
with him, one or two without him. So on FanDuel, where there's 8 games and there's an extra 10K to spend, I think it's easier to, especially the 2 games that they have over DraftKings being pretty juicy fantasy games. I mean, I think there's ways to go that allow you to fade Harden today.
Yeah. No.
Again, don't let the point total fool you. This is still a tough matchup for Harden going up against Golden State.
That's what I'm saying. And on today's slate, I just feel like, especially on FanDuel, there's other games that you can target and other players, and that's kind of where I went. And so I found myself not having a single piece from this game.
But at the same time, if you're playing tournaments, yesterday I felt the same way about Russell Westbrook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was like, "Oh, this isn't a Russell Westbrook game." I kind of jumped at the opportunity to get him at low ownership.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling that way about Harden today, if you're playing tournaments, I mean, this dude can get you 80 in any given game, especially a game where he's trying to show off and, I don't know, kind of get in their head like we're gonna beat you, we're gonna continue to beat you, and we just did beat you, So, I mean, these guys want to prove something. They want to come out and be the best. So, especially Harden.
Looking at this Miami-Detroit game, what are your thoughts on Ish Smith? So, played 34 minutes yesterday. Reggie Jackson, like we mentioned, already out today, could be out for the season. Obviously, they didn't have a chance to jack Ish's price up. And I looked at some numbers versus Miami in recent years. In the past, since he's been with Detroit, he has not played well. But he also hasn't played a ton of minutes. When you go back to his Piston days, or I'm sorry, his 76er days, every time he's played big minutes against Miami, he's done really well against them. Miami hasn't been locked down in guarding the point guard position this year or as of late. They've been pretty consistent, middle of the pack, maybe a little below average. He's going to be chalk. Do you think he's good or bad chalk?
I do not think he is good chalk. This is why. Again, it doesn't make sense why they shut down Reggie, but I think so. He just played 35 minutes against the Knicks and had 32 and a half DraftKings points. That obviously is 6 times value at 5K, and his price, like you said, would have risen had this not been a back-to-back. People are going to look at that and, like you said, it's going to be chalky. But again, that was the Knicks. I think the Heat are a better team than the Knicks. This is a back-to-back. He's not used to playing 35 minutes a game back-to-back. Perhaps that's kind of thin there, but I don't know if the guy's this chalky.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and let's break it down to scenario. So in tournaments you can fade him. Can you fade him in cash?
I don't think you should,
Okay.
but I think you can. Yeah, I definitely think you can. Again, this isn't a very stackable game. I think if you're playing Detroit, you're looking at Ish just because his price is so low. Whereas if it was $500 more on DraftKings, he's not chalk. So I don't know that is someone I'm like locking into cash. Like he's not like super cheap.
See, I found myself rostering Ish because of the way I was allowed to construct my lineups around him.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like Ish, I don't need much for value. I need, 22 points?
No, you don't. Exactly. He's going to play big minutes.
So I just feel like if he plays 30 minutes, can he get 22 points? I mean, I sure hope so. I don't think Miami... I do agree with you. Miami's a better defensive team, but I don't think he gets in, I quote, locked down and has an 8-point game like he had the other day, right?
No.
So I think he can hit value, and that's where I'm looking at, man.
Yeah, no. From a cash perspective, I don't mind Ish Smith, but I don't think he's a lock.
Okay. Milwaukee, Charlotte, Kemba. Do you look there? He's at home. Under 8K
You can
on
look
FanDuel.
I think you can look at Kemba. I think I'd rather pay up elsewhere than this game. So
Yeah, no, I
I
agree
don't
with
have
you.
any Kemba.
I'm looking at Giannis today. Minnesota at Indiana. So they have now moved Chris Dunn to shooting guard. He is no longer point guard, which I like a lot. Rubio,
On FanDuel, you mean?
yep. Rubio and Teague, similar price points on both. Who do you favor, if either?
Neither.
Okay.
I would probably play Rubio over Teague, but I'm not going either. I think again, this is not the game I'm decided to pay up in.
I agree with you there. I'm not looking at either. Philly, Brooklyn, though. Like this a
Yeah,
lot.
definitely like this one. I think this game is definitely standing out to me as a game to target,
So there's gonna be
especially
some
on DraftKings. Only 6 games.
there's gonna be some value here too, by the way. So Gerald Henderson already out. Sergio Rodriguez questionable. Jaleel Okafor is out. So that puts players like Sean Long in play. Rashawn Holmes will start again. If Sergio doesn't play, Nick Stauskas is the backup point guard. And the third string point guard after that is Dario Saric. So that should tell you that McConnell and Stauskas get significant run today.
They had a guy I thought. What was his name? Man, I forget. I thought a third stringer. Maybe not. Oh, Jared Bayless. Yeah, he's not playing.
Yeah, he's done for the
They
year.
had Chase and Randall. He went to the Knicks.
Yep. They don't have another point guard.
Yeah, I imagine it would be Stauskas, which would probably also mean big minutes for Luau Cabarro if Stauskas plays backup point guard.
And I think
and then you're going to see some more minutes for Justin Anderson as well.
That's where I was going. Yep. Justin Anderson. I don't think
All those guys are cheap.
I don't think anybody looks at Justin Anderson. I think everyone automatically looks at McConnell and Stauskas, right? The guys that are mentioned, but I don't think people will think about Anderson moving up in the charts. Phoenix, Atlanta, another game. No defense going to be played. Both teams give it up everywhere. So Schroeder, I just saying. Schroeder, I like a lot. I think you can look at Ulyss as well. I'm really liking a Schroeder Howard stack.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's going to be a good way to go today. The problem is that Schroeder's $7,800, man. Like that to me is too much money.
That is.
I don't feel confident in that. Not a lock at all my lineups, but I do like Schroeder today. I like the spot for him. Ulyss and Booker, I think I always like to go after Atlanta's backcourt. I do it all the time. I think it's pretty awesome that we have two guys that are playing 40 minutes going after this backcourt. So
yeah, exactly.
I will have some of them today as well.
And then we got Washington and LA. So John Wall in LA. I mean, we talk about prime matchups, right? But 10-2 on FanDuel in the main slate. Obviously 10-7 on DraftKings, but slate's different. I don't know that I pay for John Wall, and the reason is I don't feel confident that Wall gets 50 points today because I don't feel that Wall will get his full allotment of run.
Yeah, I mean, we thought about that against Brooklyn. They just blew Brooklyn out by like 28 points, and he still played 30 minutes. So, or did he? I think I know he was battling migraines that game, but I think he would have got to 30 minutes had he was fully healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Even a blowout, I still think he gets okay minutes, enough to pay off that price tag. I don't know as far as upside.
That's what I'm saying.
On the 2-game slate on DraftKings between Wall and Dame,
I think you go
that
Dame.
is a very tough call, man. I think it's a tough call.
It is. I think I lean Dame, but on the main slate on FanDuel, I found myself fading Wall. I couldn't confidently roster him, saying that I was confident he was going to get 50 points because I'm not. I'm not confident in that. No thanks on the Dennis Howard stack on DraftKings. I can see that, especially for the price. Wall, Beal, Bogdanovich. Interesting. I do like Bogdanovich today. I think he gets run. Actually, there's question marks there too. Do they feel the need to play Bogdanovich because he's not a guy that's blowout proof?
Yeah, but Bogdanovich isn't you talking about Bogdanovich being blowout proof? If anything, he gets more run in blowouts. And
Well, the only issue is he was battling that injury, and right. So what incentive does Washington have to run him if they're
to
blowing
keep
someone
going
out?
him out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, especially against the Lakers.
That's my only concern. So, um, Jennings Mahimi punt stack. I like Mahimi
Yeah,
tonight. I definitely like Mahimi.
definitely a good two-man stack there. I mean, again, anytime you're playing these game scripts and you think there could be a blowout, contrarian strategy is to find a two-man bench stack. I do it all the time. Or sometimes when I'm stacking teams, I'll go two starters, one bench player, just depending on usage. I'll find that one bench player that's getting the most run or most usage. And if I think it's going to be a blowout, I'll go for that guy. Um, Definitely a good strategy, though, especially in this Washington Lakers game.
So, what are your thoughts on CJ McCollum tonight? Obviously, he's only late slate on DraftKings, but FanDuel in the main. And CJ had that 20-point game, or I'm sorry, the 40-point
Mm-hmm.
game the other night. Other than that, he hasn't hit value in almost every game since Nurkic has arrived. And that really worries me.
Yeah, it's not only that, but Dame has just been kind of been on another level
He's
as
taken
of late,
over.
and I think it has much more to do with Dame's performances than it does CJ's. I mean, Nurkic's. I mean, there's got to be something to do with that, but still, I don't know. I think that price is on FanDuel at least. I guess the price on both sides is good enough
Mm-hmm.
in this matchup to go after CJ. I don't mind it at all.
His price is fair. Like I said, it's dropped. And that's what makes the play enticing. At 8K, I say no. But under 7K,
Yeah.
it's definitely, yeah.
Even 7,200 on DraftKings, they didn't inflate his price that much for this 2-game slate. So
And you know who else might have something to do with it? And David just mentioned this. Rather pay down to Crab. Crab has been getting run, and he's been producing his. He's been out producing his price tag as of late.
yeah, well that's another thing is Crab is CJ to CJ.
Yeah,
Hold on, let me try to get this.
I know
So
what
on
you
the
mean.
second team, Crab is CJ, and on the first team is Dame and CJ. On the second team, it's CJ and Crab.
Yeah,
So when Crab is struggling, or not, when CJ is struggling,
Crab
Dame and Crab tend to
go out, ball out.
benefit.
What about Gary Harris against CJ? I like that matchup, and I think he's still safe for points.
Yeah, I'm glad his price finally dropped back to like where it should be.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can. I think you can
Look there.
look there. Yeah.
I like CJ or Alan Crab's price is still 3,800. And now James Harden, 12.5 on FanDuel, 12.3 on DraftKings. To play or not to play James Harden?
That is the question. Yep. I'll have James Harden. I'll have a line without James Harden. I'll probably play 3 lines. It's just though I want 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3 on this 6-game slate. Still working it out.
Yeah. Someone asked, why would you play CJ over Booker? That's a fair question,
That is a very fair question.
especially given the
I wouldn't.
matchup. Yeah, especially given the matchup. I agree with that. Uh, Fade Harden. A lot of Fade Hardens today.
Good. Do
Yeah.
it. Fade him.
So we mentioned Clay. I really don't like Clay against Houston. I don't know. On the road, I just don't like him. I get that price tag. I don't know. It could bite me.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, no. Like I said, if you look at the last 10 DVPs, Curry and Clay, they're Houston's a bottom 10 team about point guards and shooting guards recently. They're giving it up to them. They're not. They, you can look at those last 10 games too. It's good and bad teams. This is obviously a very good team. Could be sneaky today, I think. Steph and Clay.
Yeah. Well,
It's
Harden.
much we talked about at the top though. It's much easier to fade Harden on FanDuel.
Yeah, especially with the main slate.
Yeah.
Deion Waiters out, obviously. Josh Richardson, still 4,600. Has a tougher matchup against KCP, though. 5,200, I think that's a fade for me on DraftKings.
Yeah, watching him, he's becoming like a steals guy. Like they've been playing him one-on-one with with the good wings from the opposition. So
He matched up with that
maybe
guy
that's what
last
they
year.
want him to do. Yeah, maybe that's what they want out of him. And so it's tough to roster a guy that's, from a fantasy perspective, that their sole purpose in minutes is to be a shutdown defender. Not saying that he is. I'm just saying that's kind of becoming his role.
Yeah. Someone said, Kyle, I think you really like Giannis tonight. Absolutely, I do. I was just getting there. So 10-3 on FanDuel against Charlotte. I mean, matchup. I don't see anyone who guards him. So your wing defenders on Charlotte are, or you got Kemba at point. I don't think Kemba matches up on Giannis. You got Batum, and then you got MKG. Who do you think guards him? Probably MKG.
Yeah, probably. I think I'd have to go back and watch the last game, but I imagine it would be MKG. I know he did well against them last game.
52 points.
Giannis.
Yeah.
And small forwards have this, especially elite small forwards, have been kind of taking it to him this year. So that's where I think Giannis is. I put him as a small forward because I don't know if he's a shooting guard or a power forward or a small forward, but MKG is a small forward, and I think that's who's going to be on him. So when I look at DVP, I'm looking at small forward.
So with Giannis, because I was looking at past numbers, right? So he did really well last time he played, obviously 52 points. The times before that, he didn't do anything crazy, but that was also last year, and this is a completely different Giannis. So that's also, I mean, a point to be made as well about looking at past performances, right? You got to take things into perspective.
Yeah, with Giannis, you can't really look at anything before this year.
Yeah. Theo says, I think Giannis and Harden get to the same points, and you save 2,000 with Giannis. I can agree with that. I think Giannis has similar upside today.
Yeah, that's fair.
What
The only
about
problem I have with that game is the pace of play. I tend to target Giannis in high pace games because he only needs like 3 steps to make it down the floor. The Charlotte turns the ball over the least out of any team in the NBA, so I like Giannis in games where there's lots of steals, blocks, long rebounds, where he can get out and play his game, and I don't really see that in this game. But again, he did play well against them, and small forwards are playing well against the Hornets. So,
do you look at Batum today against Milwaukee?
man, I don't know. I haven't played Batum in a long time.
I haven't either.
The thing about Batum is like his price stays the same. He gets right around value, so that's why it continues to stay the same, but he never crushes.
Yeah, especially with Kemba back. Manningdale says Hornets are out of the playoffs, so true.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
what are they going to start tanking now?
What about Monte against Minnesota? One of the better matchups.
He's starting now.
Yeah.
They've moved him back into the starting lineup. Strange turn of events.
They keep switching that.
He's getting close to 30 minutes. He's in a good spot. I don't know.
Here's the
His
thing.
price is up though.
Here's the thing I like though. So on FanDuel, $100 cheaper is Chris Dunn, and on DraftKings he's $1,300 cheaper. Chris Dunn over the last 2 games has gotten over 30 minutes, clearly getting run. I think it makes sense from a Minnesota standpoint, right? Nothing to play for. You know what you have in the other guys that are off the bench. Why not run Chris Dunn and Tyus Jones? And you're seeing a lot of Chris Dunn, and he's making use of those minutes, I should say.
Kyle, do you remember when Zach LaVine went out and I made this proposition about what I thought was going to happen?
Yep.
Well, I guess they've somehow thought that they were playoff contenders, and that's why they didn't do this. But had they have done it, I think they might be in the playoffs. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Obviously, for those of you that didn't know, I thought Chris Dunn was going to be the primary beneficiary with Zach LaVine being out, but It didn't work out. It's happening now.
Dude, I picked Chris Dunn at the beginning of the year, back when we first started this show, all the way back in October. I picked Chris Dunn to be the Rookie of the Year. Obviously, that's not going to play out, but I've always liked his game, and the fact that he's getting run now, he's put up 2 straight 30-point games, blowing up value, right? Clearly exceeding it. If he gets minutes, he's putting up over a point per minute right now, or right
Yeah,
around there.
again, they just thought that they were in the playoff contention. That's why they were starting Brandon Rush. He's defensive-minded player, and Tibbs defensive-minded coach. They had enough playmakers. They didn't really need another one in the starting lineup. But now it's about finding what their talent has. I think they realize they're out of it, or they are officially out of it. So
Yeah, Chris Dunn. That's what he came out of college as, man. Defensive expert. He's not. His offensive game was not polished, and Tom Thibodeau's a defensive coach, so it makes sense. I love Chris Dunn too. If he gets his offense down, dude's gonna be a good player. Um, Sean Kilpatrick is probable today. Do you think he plays? They came out earlier and said
I guess he probably.
well, it says he's able to play, but there was also a report that came out and said it all depends on if the coach is clear.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think if he's active, he'll get 20 minutes. Just like the rest of them. I don't know. Yeah, the fact that he's probable to play takes me off of Levert, McDaniels, Dinwiddie, Whitehead.
That entire situation?
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, until the minutes shake out. I'm being completely honest. Like, if he is active to play, I'm off of all these guys.
I agree.
And Kilpatrick, too, at 5K. You can't do it, man. Jeremy Lin is still going to get his, promise you. I don't know.
I agree with you.
I'm happy he's back, but
from
a fantasy point, you got to just kind of avoid this spot now.
It muddies the entire situation. I agree. You mentioned TLC. I do like that play. Minimum salary on FanDuel, almost minimum salary on DraftKings, 3,400. I like that. I like Stauskas as well for $100 more. I think I actually lean Stauskas in this game, especially with him running some backup point guard. The ball. I love guys that have the ball in their hands, right? So more opportunities for points. And if Stauskas is going to run backup point, if Sergio's out, then I like Stauskas.
Yeah, I think Stauskas, like you said, ball in their hands against Brooklyn, that's usually a good thing to do, a good thing to target. He played really well against Brooklyn. He got his first start there.
What?
Trying to think.
Parked outside the gate.
Oh, fuck. Can you go move my car?
Yeah, I don't think you have a ticket on it.
Sorry.
Real world problems, right?
Right.
You've just been like chilling here.
Henderson's not playing, like you said. Cabarrot, 3,400. Guard and forward eligible. Could help out with lineup construction if you want to go there. Like you said, like I said, he's probably going to get some extra run just because he's starting. And they're short guards.
So we mentioned
They're short two guards.
Devin Booker and CJ. So on DraftKings, the price is similar. FanDuel, Devin Booker's a lot more expensive. Well, not a lot. $700 more expensive.
Yeah, I'm afraid that everyone's going to be on Devin Booker after that 70-point game. Like for the rest of the season,
yeah,
his ownership is going to have at least 5% more than it should. But he's getting good minutes. Again, I target Atlanta all the time. This backcourt, he's got a great matchup.
And then you got Bradley Beal, 7,800. I think that's really expensive today. If Mike doesn't know what net to play.
I would target the front court. We haven't got there yet. I think Lynn is off the board today just because there's so many good point guards.
You know who we didn't mention is D'Angelo Russell, and I think D'Angelo Russell could be in a good spot tonight at shooting guard.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's a lock in my late slate lineup.
Yeah.
For sure. The Wizards has been given up to shooting guard. That's become the one position to target for them. So, yeah, Russell at shooting guard. Do it.
Gallo, Wilson Chandler. Yes or no? I think I fade both for their price.
I agree. On the short slate, if I had to pick,
I lean Wilson.
it's definitely I think I lean Wilson Chandler as well for his upside.
Kyle looks wild Eastern European.
What?
That's Theo. What about Iggy against
Yeah,
Houston
man,
today?
starting early tonight.
He's probably already drunk.
Iggy, yeah. Iggy's another guy. I think definitely in play in this game. A lot of fantasy points to go around. Iggy's been showing some upside recently. I like the matchup for him. I don't necessarily like the price at 5K, but
Do you think people point chase him based on last game?
Yeah, and I think also people want a piece of this game.
Yeah.
But he's a cheap way to get one too, you know?
I was just going to say, I mean, we talk about trying to find out which high-price guys to get, if any, right? Iggy automatically, he's the cheaper play. And then Ariza as well. Ariza, what is he, 5'4"? With no Ryan Anderson again.
Is Anderson out again?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. I gotta go Ariza over Iggy.
I agree with you.
Actually, that's weird. It's really bad.
Chris Middleton is questionable. Sick.
He sat out shoot around. It's game time decision. But we'll get that before lock.
So who benefits the most from him being out?
From
Snell?
him being out, yeah, I think Snell would probably get some run to Rashad Vaughn. From a usage perspective, I think Giannis is pretty topped out.
Yeah, I don't think
And
you can
maybe
really...
he gets finishes a couple extra possessions as far as usage, but I mean, you got to look at it. I'm trying to think who else. Probably some usage will go to Brogdon. I imagine Brogdon's in a good matchup, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then Henson, I believe, is out as well.
Yep.
So maybe you see some increased run to Hawes, revenge game.
Haas has a revenge game against every team, though. He's played for like 18 teams.
Dude, I found a stat the other day. I don't know what made me just think of this, but I think it was Hawes' man bun. But I found a stat the other day that it had Kelly Olynyk's stats when he wears a headband and Kelly Olynyk's stats in a man bun, and it's like staggeringly different.
Alright, bro, here's your ticket.
So
No ticket.
Nice.
I'm good. No ticket.
You got super lucky because there's cars down there that have tickets on them that you don't.
I don't know how I lucked out of a ticket. Thank you, Missy. I guess because I was parked towards
it's
the front
that
of the...
89 Daewoo you're driving.
I've been in that white spot.
Yeah, I was in the
But
white.
I've still gotten tickets.
Hey, I'm gonna count my blessings.
You didn't have any white papers in your car, so I was like, okay.
Anyways, back to the show.
Ow, there's see it again.
You better thank her later.
I know, right?
You didn't say thank you at all.
I did say thank you. I said thank you, Missy.
Okay, I didn't hear that.
Damn it, Mike.
Sorry. Whatever, when you get to this one.
I'm all flustered.
TJ, over here, TJ Warren yet? No, we're still on Wiggins.
Paul George.
We're on
Wiggins.
Paul George.
So, I really like Paul George, man. I think this is, down the stretch for Indiana, Paul George taking control again. I think he took my comments to heart when I said that this was Miles Turner's team. Paul George is trying to prove me wrong, so glad to see that. I'm going to play Paul George today. But on the reverse, man, Indiana is one of the worst teams against three-pointers. Andrew Wiggins likes shooting three-pointers. He's done a lot better this year at shooting three-pointers. And on top of that, they're third worst in the league at guarding small forwards.
Yeah, Paul George is playing well down the stretch here, which is nothing new to him. Not abnormal. He usually plays well down the stretch here. They're a playoff team. It's a good matchup for him, like I said. I think the problem I have with him is really nobody really around him at price. Who else is there at small forward today to pay up to besides him?
Mm-hmm.
DraftKings, they have Giannis.
See, that's one of the reasons I feel like everybody's going to be on James Harden today, right? Or Steph Curry. And pieces from that game. And what I really like is I like being able to get Giannis and Paul George in a lineup. And Dame. I have all three of those guys in a lineup, and I feel pretty comfortable with them. Whereas James Harden takes... He really forces you to pay down either at one of those spots or everywhere in your lineup, you know what I mean, to accommodate.
Yeah, you're fading Harden, I can see it. But I don't know.
I like Paul
I'm not
George.
going to play. I think I'd rather play Wiggins over George today, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
Just because of the price per dollar.
Yeah.
Um,
And then Rondae
and then I
Hollis.
think I'd rather play
Go ahead.
Covington over both of them.
I don't like Covington today.
See, I'm not really high on Saric today, and whenever I'm not high on Saric, I'm high on Covington. This is a good matchup against Brooklyn. Seems like one of those two guys gains all the usage in any given matchup.
What about Rondae Hollis Jefferson? So we talked about Justin Anderson already. Rondae Hollis Jefferson against.
It's on a great run.
Yep. He's been mad consistent as of late too.
He's been on a great run, and it's all really come down to his rebounding stats. But his price is up. Kilpatrick's back in the mix, so I'm going to fade.
TJ Warren against Atlanta. Price is dropping a little bit, down to 6,400 on FanDuel. Still 72 on DraftKings. I do like it on FanDuel, though, 6,400. I think everybody's going to be on Booker.
I like Warren.
And nobody's going to be on Warren.
Yeah, I think you play both. You play Ulis, Booker, and Warren if you wanted to.
And then Taurean Prince, obviously talked about him. So DraftKings price is elevated. FanDuel, it's not. He's only 300 above minimum salary. Without Bazemore and Cephalosha, I think you're safe to see another 30 minutes from him. I see no reason why he can't hit value at that price against Phoenix.
That's really cheap.
Yeah.
I think 4,800 is a fair price.
Yeah, even that. I mean, he needs 25 points to exceed value. I think he can do that against Phoenix.
Again, the only thing I'm concerned about is Hardaway Jr. If Hardaway Jr. starts hitting shots, Taurean Prince's offensive upside is extremely limited.
Yep.
Yeah. So they kind of hinge on each other.
And then Brandon Ingram's out now, so you're going to look at Corey Brewer to take some minutes, and then Larry Nance. Corey Brewer is a no-go for me. I don't even look at that. Larry Nance is interesting, but like I mentioned, Bogdanovich. So with Corey Brewer starting, I'm off Otto Porter completely. I'm sure that's music to your ears, but I'm not huge on Otto Porter, but I do like Bogdanovich coming in off the bench at 4K.
Yeah, I like Bogdanovich. I don't know what to do with that minimum starter Corey Brewer thing.
I'm not touching it. Why would I? He's 3,500. Prince is 38. I feel more confident in Prince.
Yeah,
what it's worth. Corey Brewer still.
I was again the late slate.
Oh, true. He still didn't get 20 minutes, even though he started. For what it's worth, Nwaba and Nance picked up a majority of those minutes. So, if Boban is limited, do I think Oubre's in play?
Boban. Uh-oh.
Boyan? I think he meant Boyan. Yeah, Bogdanovich. Boban is always.
Here we go. Oubre? No. I'm not a Oubre fan, man.
I know you're not.
The Uber.
He does a lot. He does nothing with a lot of minutes when he plays. I'm interested to see. It'll be easier to do on the late slate in DraftKings. I wouldn't touch him on FanDuel, but if you get news that Bogdanovich is going to be limited in any way, I think you can definitely look at Oubre, though, on the late slate.
Yeah, can. I think definitely a late slate call based on injury and good matchup. And he'll give you 20 fantasy points in 30 minutes once every 20 games.
He kills the Cavs for whatever reason. That's the one team he does really well on. His last 2 games that he had 20 points were both against the Cavs. So, I don't know why, but
that's just weird.
Okay, so Jokic tonight. Obviously on DraftKings late slate only, he's only 9,400. On FanDuel 10-3. Do you play Jokic? He has done well against the Blazers historically.
I do like Jokic in this late slate. It's him, Wall, and Dame, right? Are the 3 studs in this late slate. I think you can make the case that Jokic is the best play. If you look at the price to player comparison, Dame's price is over 10. It's like 10.5.
Yep, 10.3. Wall's 10.7.
10.7.
And then Jokic.
So I think Jokic might be the best play based on price for all 3 of those studs out of those 3 in the late.
Do you think Jokic goes the lowest owned as well, and part of it has to do with his poor game from last time?
On the late slate, I think all 3 of those guys are going to have 30-plus ownership.
What do we got? So I mentioned Draymond. I think Draymond has the best matchup of any Golden State player today. But he has not hit 40 points more than once in his last, I believe, 7 games. That's just to get to 5x value.
No, I like Draymond in that matchup. I don't love it though. I think I'd rather play Draymond than Paul George. If you're going price points.
See, I disagree there. I like Paul George,
but I'm not playing either.
I just think Paul George he's a different kind of player at the end of the year. I don't know. He literally carries the team. So I feel like Paul George has way too much usage to fade him, whereas Draymond is the third or fourth option on that team.
Right, but I like the fact that Draymond's in a game that's going to have a lot of fantasy points. I think out of all the Golden State Warriors, Draymond gets up to play for big games more than the others. I think
he does. He has that emotional.
He doesn't need to score, man. He just kind of if he's just emotionally, into it, steals, blocks, rebounds. The dude kind of does it all. So
technical.
For that reason, he doesn't. The home road splits kind of help. Yeah, technical, kicking dudes in the nuts.
He gets up for it all.
He's an animal.
Tobias against Miami, I don't like that. I love James Johnson. James Johnson does really, really well versus Detroit historically, and with no Dion Waiters.
Yeah, he's definitely in play. I agree. He's in a good matchup for sure.
Power forward under 5,300. Probably Larry Nance. I like Larry Nance. Gorgie Dang actually as well. So I was just going to get there as well. With Milwaukee and Charlotte first, though, Marvin Williams, do you look there?
Where's his price at? It's still over 6. I'm still.
Yeah, I fade that until it goes down a little more. So this mini Indiana game.
Holmes is still a power forward.
He is
on FanDuel.
He's 57 too.
That's pretty nice. Wonder how much longer that's gonna last.
Dude, so I really like Gorgie Dang against Indiana today. I talk about it all the time, how much better Gorgie Dang does on the road. I feel like Karl Anthony Towns is going to have his hands full with Miles Turner today. And I think Miles Turner's in a really good spot as well. But I like Gorgie Dang on the flip.
Yeah, I like the front courts on both sides. I like Cat. I like Dang. I like Turner. Again, my process that's been successful recently has been to target games and to fade anybody over 6K in the other ones.
Yeah.
So that's why it's tough for me to go some of the guys that we've talked about.
Philly, Brooklyn. Saric should have some run today. Holmes should have a lot of run today. Good matchup. But I think Okafor being out really benefits Brook Lopez. Am I crazy for thinking that? Holmes is undersized.
Yeah, no, it does. But at the same time, I like when Brook Lopez is in a matchup where the center doesn't get out of the paint, Whereas I think Holmes has got 3-point range, he can get out on the perimeter. To address the question, I think I'd rather play Holmes than James Johnson today. But I like Holmes and Brook Lopez today.
Yeah, no, I can see the argument for both. I found myself fading Saric. I just liked other guys better at that price point, especially at other positions. Here's a guy that I really like on FanDuel, and I think you can make the case to fade him on DraftKings, but Ilyasova. So we got no Millsap, we got no Bazemore, we got no Cephalosha. Ilyasova had 18 rebounds against Brooklyn. We talk about targeting Brooklyn's front court. I make a case to even target more so Phoenix's front court.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And there's going to be a lot of rebounds in this game against Phoenix as well. So 6K on DraftKings is just too much. The upside is just not there for 6K price tag. But FanDuel, yeah, I like that a lot. I'm all over it on FanDuel.
Yeah, no, Ilyasova was one of my plays today. Julius Randle against Washington, I think, is going to be a nice play. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on him. Although, DraftKings late slate, yeah. But Markieff Morris, man, his price is down to $5,700. and he's going up against Julius Randle.
Yep, the price is finally below 6K. It took a while, but they finally figured it out. I don't know. He's just been off lately, so it's tough to play. Maybe on the late slate, I think you have to look at it.
Yeah.
One person we didn't mention is Quincy AC that I like. He is the backup center for Brooklyn, and going up against centers or front court Philly.
Yep.
The dude's been getting 20 minutes pretty consistently.
Definitely target Quincy AC. I didn't even think about that punt. And he's power forward on FanDuel, I believe.
Yeah, he's power forward and center on DraftKings. Again, he's playing backup center for the Nets now.
Nice.
Justin Hamilton's pretty much out.
Someone mentioned a Holmes and Sean Long stack. Can you do that? Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I told you like I would do a Brook Lopez Quincy AC stack to target the
Philly front court.
To target the Philly front court. So
go reverse.
You go reverse, yeah. I agree.
I think everybody's going to be on Nurkic, and I think people are looking at this from that narrative. I really think Nurkic gets in foul trouble tonight. Against Jokic.
Again, you got to trust your gut on something like that. There's really no measure that could say one way or the other. So,
matchup is
I
there.
thought, Marquise Chris against the Nets was a prime matchup for foul trouble because, increased possessions, increased foul trouble, but it didn't work out. So, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, that's foul trouble is not something you can predict, at least not very accurately. So, it's just a gut feeling there. So, if he doesn't get into foul trouble, so be it. But I personally am fading him for that concern. Do you think Capella? I don't know. My gut tells me this is more an A game.
Why do you say that?
I just see Capella or Nene getting a lot of run with the teams that are high pace recently.
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to target Nene when there's bigger front courts, but if that's something you've seen, then I could get behind it.
Plus, with Ryan Anderson out, they may need his size against Dre and Zaza.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What about Montrezl Harrell?
Yeah, so he was someone that was intriguing that I looked at as well. He's power forward on FanDuel. I don't know. I think I fade the entire front court situation from Houston.
Yeah, I think it's safe. There's enough value elsewhere to be okay with that.
I agree with David here. Jason Smith has been getting more and more minutes, and he's underpriced. I do agree with that, especially in this LA game.
Yeah, like Jason Smith too. It's another reason Markieff Morris' price is continuing to go down. Their bench is just stepping up. Mahinmi, Jason Smith, Brennan Jennings, Bojan Bogdanovic. And again, Markieff Morris used to be the only starter on that second team, and he still is. So with a better second team, less usage, and that's pretty much what's going on with him as far as fantasy production.
Washington has a deep team, man. Hassan Whiteside or Andre Drummond? Or neither?
Again, I'm going to say neither because I like other centers, but if I had to pick, I would go Whiteside.
Is that just
simple fact, Drummond on a back-to-back.
Figured, yeah. See, I tend to lean Drummond more in this matchup, but... Greg Monroe without Henson going up against Charlotte. You definitely attack their front court. I think Monroe's in play tonight.
Yeah, definitely, especially with Henson out. You never know, especially when he starts playing well. Maybe he'll get some extra run. We'll see.
I like Cody Zeller as well. Cheaper. Cody Zeller.
True. He's definitely a contrarian play in a good spot. A lot of good spots at point guard and at center. A lot of good value on the wings. But don't get fooled. I'm telling you, target these games to play in.
Yeah.
Maybe get one or two guys from the other games, but make sure to target, especially on a 6-game slate. On the 8-game slate, find your 2-man stacks that you like.
Karl Anthony Towns against Indiana. He has a great matchup against Miles Turner. the reverse is also true. Miles Turner can definitely, I think, put up rebounding numbers against Karl Anthony Towns. And centers have done well against Karl Anthony Towns this year. I don't know. Who do you like?
FanDuel's gonna be really tough. I just said there's a whole bunch of centers in play today.
Yep.
I think Towns is in play. I think the fact that he is considerably higher priced than the rest of these guys, you're going to get him at low ownership. I'm not playing him on the 6-game slate, just because there are some pretty awesome matchups for centers. Like I said, we talked about Brolo, we talked about Dwight, we talked about Holmes, but Cat's right in that category if you have the money for him.
Yeah. So that's where I was gonna go next. Is Miles Turner at 67 or Brolo at 67? And to me, I think I go Brolo.
Brook Lopez, yep.
We talked about Sean Long as a punt. Dwight Howard against Phoenix. Absolutely. I don't think there's anybody on Phoenix that can stop Dwight today. And then you got targeting the
I like
LA
Dwight,
game.
yeah.
And then you got the LA
A lot of
game.
rebounds to go around.
Yep. And then you got the LA game, dude, with Gortat and Mahimi. So there's so many good matchups for centers today.
I think you could throw Phoenix in there too. I think Allen Williams, Alex Len against Dwight could be a good spot in that game. I just think that Phoenix-Atlanta game for the big men, especially Dwight, man, there's going to be a lot of rebounds. There's really no one to bully him. He's been playing pretty well. And then if you look at DVP over the last 10, he's got the second best matchup against Phoenix.
Second only to Washington, yeah.
Yeah, if you look at what Phoenix has done, you look at Horford, you look at Vucevic, you look at Brook Lopez. That didn't really count because that game was a blowout. But yeah, just look at the last performances and who's put up big points against Phoenix. It's time after time. So that's why I like Dwight. Cat. Same thing can be said about Miles Turner, you know?
What about Howard's attitude? I don't know. I'm not really too concerned with Dwight Howard's attitude today. I don't know. I feel like someone has to step up on Atlanta, right? They're like we mentioned, they're in a tailspin. He wants to be the leader.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe it does. But I like that 2-man stack with Schroeder and Dwight. Again, it's very overpriced. I will give you that, but it's in a good spot against Phoenix. Not like 100% on it, but it's just one that I like.
Agree with you. Do you think Mahimi gets good run today? My only concern is with that hip pointer injury. Do you think he's clear to go?
I don't know. I think we'd have to kind of on the main slate. I think it's all right to do a wait and see approach with him because there's other value elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I think at center, but on the two-team slate or the 2-game slate, I don't mind going there.
I'm just looking to see if there's any news on him.
Yeah, and I mean, if you do think he's limited, like people have been talking about Jason Smith, I think he's definitely a good play. He'll probably become the backup center if he's limited. Yeah.
Mahimi was a full participant in Monday's practice. Look for Mahimi to continue to back up Gortat, which usually affords him minutes in the upper teens or low 20s. So, take that how you will.
Again, guys, with every individual slate comes individual strategy. If you guys watch my lock show, I try to break it down on every slate. Yesterday was totally different strategy than today's slate. The contest you select, the rosters you build, totally different. Again, this slate targets my normal process. I'm going to go through. I'm going to target the games that are going to have a lot of fantasy points. I'm going to target teams that I think are in good spots. I'm going to target players that are in good spots based on game script and DVP, and I'm going to start building lineups. My value pool doesn't really have anything to do with point totals or DVP. It has more to do with who's going to get the minutes based on injuries, based on game script. So you pool it all together, you start building some lineups. You lock or fade certain players that may be in a good spot but don't fit with your team. Like, for example, Harden's a lock or fade candidate. I think, Booker, for example, in a good spot could be a lock or fade, depending on what you think can happen with that game script. Wall in a good spot could be a lock or fade, depending on what you think with that game script. So kind of just got to run through and do your thing.
Fair enough. So I'm going to take Dave's advice here. So Dave mentioned doing this. I kind of have a prelim lineup built. So what I'm going to do, for those of you that are pro member, you'll have access to this. But I'm going to lock some players. And then was thinking about joining the website for baseball. So unfortunately, we don't have a website right now. It is in the process of being built, but we don't have an official product up yet. However, we do have the Slack group, as we've shown, and that is more than capable for right now for all your discussion needs and play talks.
True. I mean, everything that we offer right now will be on the website. So joining us now is essentially joining the website once it comes.
Yeah, exactly. So if I had to lock in players, Mike, I think I start with Dame Lillard. So for me, I'm going to start with Dame. What time do you have to leave, Mike, by the way?
Pretty soon.
You can go ahead and hop out if you want.
Unfortunately.
I'll do this because I'm just kind of
All right.
doing this.
Well, yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in here. I'll be back in a bit to chop it up in Slack or go over closer to lock when injuries kind of pan out. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you later, Kyle.
All right, buddy. Well, look forward to Mike on the Lock Show, guys. All right, so I lock in Dame. I also lock in Giannis. Where is he at? He's down here. Giannis. I lock in Ilyasova and Brook. Oh, actually, I'm not going to lock in Brook. I like Brook, but I'm not going to lock him in. Where's Ilyasova at? There he is. Ilyasova. And who else did I have? I had one more. Let me look at my lineup. Paul George. That was my other one. So let's see who it... No, I had 5. I also had Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn. Where's he at? I really like Chris Dunn today. So, come on. Where's he at? Minnesota. There he is. Haha. Bam. And Paul George. Voila. Alright, let's run it. See what we come up with. So, this is what it spits out. And I think this could be a nice lineup. You got Ish Smith, Dame Lillard, Chris Dunn and Giannis, Paul George, Bogdanovich, Randall, Ilyasova, and Howard. So we talk about Howard having a really nice matchup. Projected for 40 points. Uh-oh. Hold on. Stream's still up. By the way, while this is getting back on, if you guys enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe if you would like as well. And then if you are interested in joining us further, obviously Slack is the place to be. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below in the link. Gets you everything you want and need. All the projections, optimizers, all of that good stuff. The Slack community, which is the biggest part of what we offer. The community. It looks like the internet is failing me here.